Everybody wants to waste your time. 3, 2, 1. Boom.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
What?
I walked into the room and I said, this cannot be happening right now. This is not the kind of thing that normally happens in this town.
The crazy killer?
Is it this camera? I look at this one? Okay.
Why don't they just edit that part out?
Can you tell us your name? My name is John, and what is your connection to Crazy Legs? Who? The serial killer? I don't know who that is. You don't? No.
Is this for TV?
Sort of. Sorry, we must have got the wrong guy.
Yeah, I think you did. I work at Hobby Lobby.
Whoops. Well, could you tell us about that?
Oh, sure. So Hobby Lobby is sort of a knick-knack store.
So they're just gonna interview him anyway?
It's a good
They're just clickbaiting.
place to work because we have Sundays off. And I'm not like religious or anything, but I just don't like working on Sundays.
That's fair.
No, it didn't hurt necessarily. I just wanted to go to a dermatologist to make sure it wasn't anything serious. But then I found out that if you bundle it with your home insurance, it's actually a little bit cheaper.
How long is this?
You know what's funny? I never understood the roadwork vine. People would quote it to me.
Is this
and I
the
would go
whole
along with it.
episode?
Do you guys want to hear about the time I got my tonsils out?
Oh my God, I'm done. This is so
I'm literally
stupid.
The
walking
year
away.
2005. My throat ravaged with strep.
Hey guy, does anyone else feel like everything is designed to waste your time now?
Yes. Even this video right here, just proving my point.
Or am I being too cynical? Netflix documentaries are multiple episodes when they could have just been one 45-minute movie. Video games are too big. YouTube videos are too long. And please, for the love of God, stop asking me for my phone number every time I buy something from a store. I don't want to join your rewards program. I just want to give you money in exchange for a hat. Is that too much to ask?
Sorry, I'll start with the Netflix thing.
It seems like half of what I watch on Netflix is twice as long as it should be. They always make it just
This is why I don't watch or own a Netflix subscription. The only time I ever like watched a Netflix show was when it's like a really popular show like Arcane.
interesting enough to hold your attention, but it's still pretty clear they're trying to stretch it out as much as they can. And I know it's not just me who feels this way, because I'll look up reviews after I watch something and they almost all say the same thing. Watchable, but
You know what's another thing that they do on Netflix is that they make shows really dumbed down and easy to follow even if you're scrolling on the phone. And the CEOs and COOs got caught saying like, yeah, we don't actually make good scripts because we know our audience likes to like not pay attention, so we make it so that you're really easy to follow even if you're not paying attention all the time. That's why there's so many Netflix stories or like shows where the exposition is talked about like 15 times in a movie. Like, yes, we're going to go over here today because this guy's over there. And then they say it again like 5 minutes later.
it drags on, could have been tied up in one episode. Please, Netflix, stop trying to make a series when there simply isn't the content for a series. They made a documentary a couple years ago about the Cecil Hotel, a place that has, I'll say it, an alarming number of deaths associated with it. It's the site of that
that sounds really interesting.
Extremely famous elevator video of Elisa Lam right before she was found dead. So there is plenty of mystery to uncover here, but by episode 2, they were just interviewing YouTubers. Not people connected with the story, just a bunch of random dudes who had Googled stuff about it before. They keep calling them web sleuths.
Chat, I'm telling you, there's some places that just do money laundering and it's so obvious and no one cares. How is this allowed?
Which I guess is the most official way of saying that you just woke up one day and decided that you are a detective. Well, since no one else has been able to crack this case, I guess it's up to me. Generally, one of the big things that separates a professionally made documentary from just any average YouTube video is the access they have to the subject matter. Anyone can throw together a video where they summarize a Wikipedia page, but the most memorable and revealing documentaries are ones where we hear the perspective of the people involved. I watched one on Hulu recently called The Contestant, and not only is this an absolutely insane story, but you get to hear
Oh, wait, I think I know this one.
Hear it from the point of view of the guy it happened to. You also get to hear from the villain of this story, who is such a monster, I can't believe he agreed to be a part of this. It's fascinating to see how proud
Because in Japan, you can't sue him for it. That's why.
he is of himself. Like, yeah, I tormented this guy and ruined his life, but you gotta admit, it made for a pretty cool show. But this is kind of the expectation when you turn on a documentary, that you're gonna hear the story from the people involved in the story. So when you put on an official Netflix docuseries on a streaming service that costs money to use, and most of it is just regular people offering their 2 cents on the same blurry video everyone else has watched, it kind of feels like a huge waste of time. It's so aggressively time wasting that I can't help but feel like that was the goal. Like, all right, we have everything we need to tell this story. We have other guests who were staying at the hotel. We have the manager of the hotel at the time. We have the maintenance worker who discovered her body. And in between interviewing them, we're also going to hear from someone whose only credential is having internet access.
I am a co-founder of the Elisa Lam discussion group on Facebook.
No, he wasn't.
I am the discussion moderator from, I don't fucking know, for a VTuber. Therefore, I am an expert.
There when it happened, but he has listened to a lot of podcasts about this.
I'm an expert
we
on
should probably hear him
VTubers.
out. More recently, they made a docuseries about Ashley Madison, a website whose mere existence is fascinating, let alone all the fallout from their massive data leak that exposed a bunch of celebrities and politicians. There is absolutely a story worth telling here, and some of it was very interesting. But again, pointless interviews, backstory that's unnecessarily detailed. There's such a clear amount of filler put into these documentaries. It felt like half the runtime of the last 2 episodes was just trying to make us feel bad for this YouTube vlogging couple, which, I'm sorry, was never going to happen.
But it's about a murder, man. It's a hotel. How did they get away with this? Who funds this shit?
In fact, I would say the best thing to come out of this was that it forced them to take a short break from exploiting their children's medical issues for AdSense revenue because they were too busy making 17 videos about how they were going to be on Netflix. Now, I would guess, like with a lot of their scripted content, the
That's called
shadowy
farming,
Netflix
chat.
overlords
It's
are more
farm.
responsible for a lot of these decisions than the talented people who work on these. I don't think almost every single documentary is 3 60-minute episodes because that's always how much story there is to tell. I think that's the mandated runtime that their bosses give to them. So even when they end up with footage that doesn't add anything to the show, they kind of just have to leave it in anyway to pad the
YouTube videos do this as well. Have you ever clicked on a YouTube video about like a game news and then it's like really innocuous news that nobody really gives a fuck about, but they hype it up with like a thumbnail or a title that's like big news from PlayStation leaks, and it's like okay. Magic 20. I think the magic number is 8 minutes and 20 minutes too.
length. There's a series I did a couple years ago with Kristen Bell called The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. As you
Who greenlit this? This sounds like a title I would put for like remembering what video I need to upload. I can't, it's so bad. Sounds like an anime title. Yeah, kind of.
You could probably guess from the title this was a parody of like Lifetime murder mysteries, and it was a pretty funny show. I enjoyed it. But the whole time I was watching this, I just kept thinking, this should have been a movie. Why is this 8 episodes? Is it because they knew it would take me 4 days to finish instead of getting through it all in one night, therefore extending my subscription just long enough for them to make a little bit more money for me?
MMOs do this as well. MMOs, when there's a new update, they make the content last just enough for the next rollover. Yeah, it's really a funny kind of like, it's not a scam, but it's clever.
You know, now that I hear that out loud, I'm pretty sure it's that. At this point, I just assume most of Netflix's decisions are made by an algorithm that prioritizes keeping people subscribed as long as possible and has figured out the best way to mathematically do that, even if it lessens the overall user experience. I think overall, Netflix is trying to do too many
Inshitification. It's a good word.
things at once. They want to make good shows, but they also want to make a lot of shows. And they want the shows to be longer than they need to be, but not in a way that would cost more money. And they need to move the plot along so no one gets bored, but not too quickly. Otherwise, the people who are looking down at their phones the entire time might get confused.
She'd heard from so many
That's what I'm saying. It's an actual thing.
showrunners who are given notes by the streaming channels that they say, this isn't second screen enough. The viewer is expecting
our attention spans have gone down by at least 8 seconds, bro. Can you believe that? I think that what the average is 8 seconds all across the world compared to like 100 years ago.
Expected to be on their phone, kind of half doing something else while your crime drama or whatever is playing. And you just can't make it as complicated as you have because they're not going to understand it because they're only going to be half concentrating on your show.
You know, when you hear stuff like that, it's actually not that surprising how often shows like Avatar would repeat the same information they just told you a few minutes ago. You're not supposed to pay attention when you watch Netflix. You're just supposed to put it on in the background so you have something to listen to while you make dinner. But like, if you're designing your content so that it's best consumed while half paying attention to it, why would I waste my time devoting all of my attention to it?
On the topic of things that are getting too long, what's going on with YouTube videos? Does anyone?
Oh, and streaming. I don't know if he addresses this. Hold on. SoFi, YouTube, social media, video games. Streaming does this too, and you notice it when people ask like, hey, what's going on? I just joined and like, I don't know what game you're playing, and like, I came here for 3 hours ago and then I came back and now I don't know what's going on. It's like, bro, just figure it out, man. Hey, what are you doing? I came here like 2 days ago and then I fell asleep at the computer from a morphine overdose and now I'm back and I don't know what's going on.
No, I'm old enough to remember when the 10-minute mark was something videos got stretched out to. Now it feels like half the videos I get recommended to me are 7-hour retrospectives on like the penguins of Madagascar. And I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel about this. Because on one,
that's the algorithm's fault. It favors viewer retention, which on average is longer. If you have a longer video, people will stick around for longer on average, therefore it gets recommended more. Even if you watch a 2-minute video in its entirety, that video doesn't get bumped in the algorithm as much, even though it got watched 100% of the time.
On one hand, some of the best videos I've seen on this website are well past the hour mark. There are multiple Defunctland episodes that have better storytelling and production value than any Netflix documentary I've seen.
Good.
When H-Bomber Guy or Jenny Nicholson release a 4-hour video, I know it's not just because they're trying to inflate the watch time so it gets boosted by the algorithm, it's because they spent months working on it and that's just how long the video ended up being. I'm a sucker for a comically in-depth review of a piece of media I've never thought about for more than 2 seconds. As long as the person making it is passionate about the subject and they put in the effort to make it entertaining, I'll watch just about anything. But I'm worried that some people are taking the wrong lessons from the success of some of these channels. They see that a very long video about a niche subject has the potential to get a lot of views, so it's almost as if they go into their video with the goal of making it as long as possible, even if there's not really that much to talk about. The current YouTube meta is to turn your video into a podcast. It's to pad the absolute shit out of the runtime because that's what the algorithm likes. And to be clear, I don't really...
And that's really Google/YouTube's fault. It's not the fault of the content creator. Like, how are... You're playing the game. Why is it your fault for playing the game how they want you to?
I blame these people for doing this, especially smaller channels who are just trying to make their videos stand out before they drown in the bottomless ocean of content. But it's just frustrating from the audience perspective that the system is rewarding unedited yapping. If I just vomit out every word that remotely pertains to the topic at hand, with no thought into brevity, no consideration of the viewer's time, it's actually more likely that YouTube will push my video out to those people whose time I'm not valuing. The algorithm is teaching me that I shouldn't cut things out of my video if they feel superfluous or unnecessary or repetitive or like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again but in slightly different ways. They'd prefer
That's clever.
if I stretched out every video as long as I could, but if that's all I'm doing, what message am I sending to the audience I'm trying to cultivate? That they're
But his video was pretty long. 30 minutes is pretty long. Did he do it on purpose, maybe?
time is just something for me to leverage so I can get more views? That's a little shitty. But the worst thing is when they start doing an ad read at the beginning of a video that, quite frankly, I'm not even sure I'm interested in yet. You haven't even hooked me, and you're already trying to sell me a water bottle that smells bad? Brother, if I wanted to be advertised to, I would fly to New York City and spin around in Times Square. I didn't click on this video to learn about the deodorant that changed your life. I clicked on this video to hear a grown man rant about the
Fairly Odd Parents for 3 hours. So in that way, this is kind of my fault. I don't know what I was expecting. Also, no.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to do this. I literally do. I signed a contract. This portion of the video is sponsored by SoFi, the ultimate finance app helping you bank, borrow, and invest. I have one goal in life. To be the first person in human history to have $100 all at once. An amount long considered to be unreachable, and yet I will reach it. And even though I'm only about 3% of the way there, I'm not giving up. Because with SoFi's high-yield checking and savings account, I can earn up to 4.5% APY on my savings with direct deposit, which is 10 times the national average savings rate. High-yield savings accounts are a great way to make your money work harder for you, so you don't have to work harder for your money. Your typical savings account with direct deposit at your local bank earns you just 0.46% interest, and that's not enough for me. I have a world record to break. But with the SoFi high-yield savings account with direct deposit, in just 5 weeks, the money in my savings account is earning more than it would in an entire year in a big bank savings account. With SoFi checking and savings, you also get paid up to 2 days early, pay no account fees, and you can cash in on up to $300 when you sign up with direct deposit. But here's the best part. SoFi and I are teaming up to give away $10,000. So I guess I'll be the second person to have $100. All you have to do to enter is sign up for a SoFi checking and savings account right now using my link, and that's it. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to enter for a chance to win. But just make sure you're using my link because it's the only way to enter. Thank you to SoFi for sponsoring today's video. Now, based on everything I just described, you might be thinking, okay, so you want every video to be as concise as possible. You mean like Mr. Beast? No. That's not what I'm saying. That is on the entire other end of the spectrum.
But Mr. Beast makes really insane production. Like, compared to, like, other people that drag out just yapping and showing, like, I don't know, just general, like, clips of, like, movies and stuff. I feel like on that scale, his 18 minutes of high-quality production worth at least, like, thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not on the same scale.
There are videos that go on so long that large portions of them become nothing more than background noise. And then there's the most hyperactive, fever dream editing, nonstop cacophony of colors and sounds meant to overstimulate the 8-year-old boys watching on their iPad. And then there's a lot of space in between. But I guess because of all that space, it's weird to me how many videos end up on either extreme. It'll either be like, I just trapped my friend in an elevator for 72 hours without any food or water, but none of that even mattered because they ran out of air and suffocated before they even got hungry. Or it'll be like, but before I can talk about season 2 of How I Met Your Mother, we need to go back to the beginning. The first camera was invented in 18... I'm just asking that we meet somewhere in the middle, that's all. Also, to be clear, Mr. Beast...
But they do the up and down because of the dopamine, man. That's why they do it.
And all of the channels copying him have never made their videos that way because they value people's time. They're just trying to keep their retention rate as high as possible. It's just a different metric they're prioritizing. If Jimmy cared about his audience at all, he wouldn't sign off on doing this unbelievably deceptive bullshit where during mid-roll ads, they put this progress bar on the bottom that starts off
this was funny.
Really fucking fast. It makes it seem like, oh, this will be done in a few seconds. I don't need to skip this. And then once people have done the math in their head and decided they're just going to see it through to the end, the progress bar mysteriously slows down. Like, a lot. And suddenly that last 20% is starting to feel like an eternity. I thought we were almost done, and now I'm not even sure we're halfway through. This shit really pisses me off, because this is a very deliberate choice. This is not an accident. You have to go out of your way to keyframe it like this with the intention of deceiving your viewers. It's such an openly manipulative thing to do to your audience, and is very telling of the way you view them. That you're willing to lie to their face if it means a number on an analytics screen might get a little bit bigger. To you, they're not real people, they're just data points that can be orchestrated in whatever direction you want them to.
So it's capitalism. Right.
And that sucks.
Correct.
And if you agree with me, please sign up for my Patreon. Right now, I'm trying to buy a bunch of Teslas so I can see how many you can stack on top of each other before they explode. I have a lot of respect for creators that make algorithmically counterintuitive decisions because they don't want to waste their viewers' time. I think Internet Shaquille is hands down the best cooking channel on YouTube. He's knowledgeable, he's funny, and he always just gets right to the point. There's a promise of information in the title, and he doesn't try to withhold it from you just because he could theoretically put more mid-rolls in by meandering for a bit.
Another really good example of the opposite of this is Joshua Wiseman. He makes like compilations of doing stuff, but it's not garbage. It's just really high information and it's fast. I like his stuff. I can like sit down and like eat my food. Yeah.
Long time, Tom Scott was kind of the science version of this. Nerd Writer is like the film version of this. In a world where most video essays end up being somehow longer than the piece of media they're about, Nerd Writer's still barely hitting that 7-minute mark. It's just, here's this thing I noticed in a movie, here's some insight about it, and that's all I got for you, brother. But I think it's also worth noting that these channels are successful. They're not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, but it works for them. And I just want to use that as a testament to making
How often does he upload though?
your brother minute mark. It's just, here's this thing piece of media they're about. Nerd Writer's still barely hit.
Not super often. Yeah, he probably gets by. So he's probably doing just fine, but he's not like, you know, making millions and millions of dollars.
In that 7-minute mark. It's just, here's this thing I noticed in a movie, here's some insight about it, and that's all I got for you, brother. But I think it's also worth noting that these channels are successful. They're not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, but it works for them. And I just want to use that as a testament to making things the way you want to make them, or making the type of video you wish there was more of. Sometimes going against the grain actually is the best way to make yourself stand out. Like, don't just throw together a bunch of crappy videos about whatever drama is trending. Make a retrospective about some niche hobby you had as a kid. This shit is way more interesting. Remember this website?
I feel like there's a million videos about niche hobbies at this point. I kind of disagree. I feel like drama's, I don't know, it's hard to say. I feel like it just depends on the person. You can kind of tell when someone's being authentic and fun, as opposed to like, oh, my niche hobby, here it is, and it's just kind of boring. Drama sells, yeah, but not always. I don't watch drama videos that are boring, obviously boring.
It's called YouTube.
Or not well done.
Do the thing that you think will become popular tube. That would be a really stupid URL. Now, I'll admit it's not totally fair to get mad at other people for wasting my time when really no one wastes more of it than I do. There was a day last week where the screen time on my phone was 106 hours. And I
How? What?
slept in that day. There's so many things I want to do in my life before I'm gone, so many people I want to spend time with, so many places I want to go, but I can't stop scrolling. I don't want.
Cheese and crackers, how do you check? How to check screen time on Android? I'll figure it out later. I can't believe this dude. 100 hours a week is insane to me.
Want to, but it's as if it's been scientifically engineered to be the easiest thing to do.
Adam and Eve were caught on camera.
What? Before cameras were even a thing? What?
Can you guess who's holding the camera?
God!
Keep scrolling if you choose the devil.
There's this weird feeling I get whenever I go on TikTok or Instagram Reels or Threads, just kidding, where I'm simultaneously aware of what it's doing to my brain, but I do nothing to try and intervene. I just sit there and let it destroy me because I have to see that next video. What if it's so funny, but I exit out of the app before I ever get a chance to watch it?
No.
I'd cry. No. I'd kill myself. And it's almost as if that feeling is intentional. They've made it so the distance between you and a chance at dopamine is just one small swipe away. I'd almost say it's malicious, but I know that's not true because $1 billion company would never do that. Billionaires care about your well-being. That's how they made so much money in the first place. Twitter.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos definitely cares about his employees pissing in buckets and in cups instead of going on break. Yeah, you're completely right.
Instagram, Facebook, they would never intentionally show us things to make us upset because studies show that people spend more time on a platform if they're seeing something that makes them angry. Yep. We wouldn't do that because that's not nice. This is what most of my timeline is whenever I scroll through Twitter. It's the most blatantly obvious engagement bait that has weaseled its way into being prioritized because it's successfully baited engagement. It's arguments about
that used to not be as bad of a thing before Elon made advertising into money. Like, you getting rage baits and impressions, like, it used to be around. Don't get me wrong. There was, absolutely. But it's so prevalent now, it's actually insane. I can barely scroll Twitter nowadays.
About body counts and whether Nickelodeon shows were good or not. And it works on me. It has the intended effect when I see it. I was scrolling one day and I saw someone say, iCarly, Victorious, Zoe 101. And at first I had to squint for a few seconds because I wasn't sure what they meant by this. And then I realized they were saying the first two are good, LeBron James, and the third is sort of an imposter that doesn't belong. And I, in my head, got defensive. I was like, what are you talking
This guy's a bit of a Disney adult, huh?
about? Zoe 101 was good. It was certainly better than Victorious. How does this have so many likes? What's wrong with Zoe 101?
And then I exited out of Twitter and sat in silence for a few seconds as I pondered what just happened. How I got upset that someone I don't know said a show from 20 years ago that I kind of liked isn't as good as a different show that I barely watch. Why is this how I'm spending my time?
In this moment,
But then there's also the 9 other people that engage with that post that aren't him, that realizing that they're not wasting their time and they think that it's valid to type back and tell other people to neck or get a rope. What the frick? Those people need to go outside, but then we have a problem. These people don't go outside enough, and then it's the cycle repeats itself, and then people are making more rage bait posts. It's great.
but I
I
could
love
have
it.
been doing anything else, and yet I chose to introduce this argument into my head. That can't be good long term, right? Like, we can all agree that's probably not great for my brain. If you're like me and you've been struggling with the endless scroll, I do have a recommendation. I found this by accident while I was
outside.
doing a video a couple years ago about dopamine fast. It's called Screen Zen, and it's free. I have it set up so it only gives me a few minutes at a time on each of the most poisonous apps that I hate but am addicted to. So you can still
That's actually really good.
pop in for a sec and get the feeling of being up to date. But then it'll grab you by the shoulders and yank you out before you get too sucked into the void.
Ooh, smart. Wait, that's actually really good. It's like a morphine effect. Little, you get a little bite.
You still get a little bit sucked, but not all the way. But of course, I saved the most important issue for last. Video games are too big now, and I'm tired of pretending like they're not. When I was a kid, the idea of an open world game blew my mind. Up until a certain point, everything was very linear, very insulated. You load into an area, you do what you have to do there, and then you move on to the next place. But this idea that you could go anywhere in any order, what could be more immersive than a world that you could essentially live in? And boy, did I want to live in any other world than the one in which I played clarinet.
I kind of disagree because I played Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, and this was, I had no achievements. It wasn't on Steam. It was like on the original box. I understand what he's trying to say, but I don't know if the examples he's maybe like alluding to are great examples, because I felt like my world was done when I was done with Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Is I finished every single quest and I was just happy I finished everything in the game and I explored everything. Went into every crevice basically, and then I was done, and it was like a good couple 100 hours, maybe even more than that, and then I played all over again like 3 years later.
And got bullied by someone who also played clarinet? You're not better than me. We're the same. To me, open world games felt like the culmination of every technological milestone. It felt like the future of gaming. And then over time, it became the standard. It became what every game had to be. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like the goal shifted from making the best game to making the biggest game. I guess.
Well, unfortunately, corpos just want you to waste your time. That's why I'm not convinced that Fallout 76 is a good game. Purely because people that are invested into it have invested so much time. They have such a time sink into it that they try to convince other players that it's a good game. It's not. Stop coping, please, for the love of God.
Because it's easier to market something based on scale than to just come out and say, hey, the story's really good in this one, trust me. I started to get overwhelmed by games because of the seemingly endless list of tasks I needed to complete, the chores that I needed to do. And to be clear, I'm not talking about games like Crime Scene Cleaner. That's a great game, okay? I don't mind chores when the game is chores. I'll play Power Wash Simulator all day. I played Unpacking shortly after moving into this house, and I hadn't finished unpacking in real life yet.
Well, there's people that neglected their kids to play Sims. Yeah, there's actual, like, case stories of, like, people neglecting their children and, like, getting the cops called on them. Yeah.
My wife was not happy about that.
What I'm specifically referring to is when games feel artificially padded with repetitive side quests. When there's like 7 different activities to do, but you just end up doing each of them 100 times. And as someone who goes into games with a completionist mindset, this is the quickest way to make me give up. Because I'll try to collect every item and go into every corner for like 20% of the story until one day I just stop opening the game altogether, relieved by the massive weight now off my shoulders. I think this is a big reason why Elden Ring had such a big impact on me and so many other people. Yes, you're in this staggeringly large open world littered with places to go and things to kill, but it's not in the form of just a bunch of exclamation points on your minimap. Almost.
Yeah, you don't have to go and do it. Like, for me personally, I played through Elden Ring and I didn't bum rush through it, but I definitely missed a lot of stuff that was like kind of like, you know, you had to kind of know it or at least stumble upon it naturally. I finished the game and I knew that I missed certain bosses and I was like, okay, maybe next time I'll play through it and I'll know. Is Elden Ring worth playing? Absolutely, 100%. I'm not like a Souls-like fan, but I really enjoyed the game. Yeah, very naturally you can just stumble upon things. Like, I understand what he's saying. I do, but he's also showing examples of AAA games of games that are AAA made by companies that want to squeeze money and time out of you to like bump metrics up on like the MSUs, which is monthly like user retention or whatever it's called. Just play something. Like, indie games don't waste your time. They don't. Or games that are older than, like, say, I don't know, anything I think above, like, 2018 is when games started to pivot into, like, wasting your time, in my opinion.
Everything you do in this game is motivated by, oh, that looks cool, I want to go over there. It's a feeling you should have while playing an open world game. It's that sense of wonder that has mostly been lost by all these cookie cutter taskathons. Also, the more bloated a game is with content, the more narrative dissonance there ends up being. Which of course only matters as much as you let it, but it's still really funny sometimes when the main questline of a game is trying to instill this sense of urgency, but at any given moment you can just go fuck around for 15 straight.
That's what I did with Witcher 3, and at one point I went on such a sidetrack to complete like all the side quests and do all the stories, which by the way, every single story, every single side quest in The Witcher 3 is a full-scale story. It makes you feel so immersed. It's not like, oh, bring me 5 pigs and then I'll give you a reward. It actually was a fulfilling, very fun or like emotional piece of story that Geralt would involve himself in. And then there's a DLC and all that. That's what I love personally. I loved Witcher 3. At one point, I sidetracked so hard I was like 20 levels above the main story quest. And I was like, fuck. Oops.
Hours. We've only got until midnight tonight to rescue my uncle, or they're gonna execute him. Hey, do you think there's anything cool in this cave over here? A compromise that works great for my brain is a semi-open world, like the 2 most recent God of War games. I like when there's enough optional side exploration that it still scratches that itch for me, without it ever feeling like I'm missing out on this overwhelming amount of content by just wanting to streamline the story for a bit. I think it's okay for a game to be modest in scope. Just because the
Oh, I love Dave the Diver. Dave the Diver's a really good one as well. I basically 100%ed the game almost, and it felt like I completed the game, and when I completed it, you could still go back and do all the little cute things, and then you'd get bored and you're done.
Technology exists
Yeah,
to
it's real
procedurally
good.
generate 1,000 different planets doesn't mean we have to do that. Sometimes I wonder if the technical limitations from previous generations actually made games better. I mean, it certainly made them more contained. It made them more...
Yes, they actually did. There's a lot of evidence of old games that were limited through either like time from the developer developing it, or budgeting, which made them think outside the box, or 3 technological advances that did not exist in the video game at the time. And one of the really good examples is Resident Evil 4. They made the game in certain ways that just that weren't possible due to the lack of technology at the time, and they improvised to make it possible. Yeah, the Silent Hill Fog! Exactly, that's another really good one. They actually implemented it because they didn't have the technology for rendering distance. They didn't have that option!
approachable. I love going back and playing older games that only take a few hours to finish. I want to be able to complete things. I want to have a full experience in a reasonable amount of time. I'm tired of not getting any closure from games because they make it so tedious and long-winded to get to that point. And that's assuming the game even works when you first buy it, which chances are it won't. It's become so...
People love to suck Cyberpunk's cock. And I get it's a pretty decent game, but I just can't help but... People really, like, memory hold the fact that the game was literally unplayable for, like, over a year, basically. Maybe even longer than that.
Normalized for games to be unfinished and littered with bugs on release that it's actually surprising when a game comes out and works the way it's supposed to. A lot of even really good games aren't worth buying for like 2 full years. Cyberpunk, fantastic game in 2024. But
Thank you! Thank you! The game came out! When did it come out? 2021 or 22? Good lord, man!
I bought this on release and had to slog through so many bugs, retread so many areas because of crashes, all before encountering an immovable obstacle. I could not progress the story because every time I tried to initiate this cutscene, the other character would not say the next line he was supposed to, so they would both just sit there in silence indefinitely. I couldn't...
Dude, that's really unlucky. That sucks.
Continue the game past this point, and I was like 10 hours into it. I had a similar game-breaking experience with Dying Light 2.
Looks like he was playing the game on a potato. I fucking hate that mentality. I hate the mentality that you have to have the top of the line rig and saying shit like, oh, what are you, just too poor to upgrade to your fucking 4090? Shut the fuck up. Stop making games that people need to upgrade and spend thousands of dollars for to play your fucking game. I hate that shit. So stupid.
Metro.
But is he wrong? Yes, he is.
Exodus, and I'm not even touching Starfield anytime soon. The bigger a game is supposed to be, the more I don't trust it to be a complete experience when it first comes out. It usually takes years to fill out all the missing pieces, so I'm not gonna waste my time or money on what I assume will be a significantly worse experience than if I were to just wait until it's on sale in 20...
Exactly. Yeah, the fact that it's like, oh, it's a good game, but it's not worth $60. You should wait for the sale. And I'm like, but I don't want to wait for the sale. I disagree. There need to be stupidly beautiful games that need a ridiculous rig to run for the medium to progress. That's a sentence. I'm not sure what that meant. But sure.
27. But in a world of titles forced out prematurely by a deadline that was never realistic, nothing feels quite as egregious as the yearly full-priced sports game. You spend 11 months building up a player or a team or a general manager if you're a weirdo like me, and then as soon as the calendar flips over, you gotta start from scratch. All right, everyone, time.
That's the recyclement of AAA gaming, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, again, you should be able to run a game at least with like a generation or two behind what the game is like requiring. Like, if you want ultra high graphics, yeah, sure, 5090, 4090, all right, like, you shouldn't have to spend that much money to run a game. Sorry, go fuck yourself. I think it's bad. I think the gatekeeping and the gateway into like gaming shouldn't be that high.
And for the new game, yes, it's $100 again, but we've made
Oh,
so many
boy.
improvements. The number on the box is different. And where's your credit card? NBA 2K has one of the most aggressive microtransaction systems I've ever seen in a video game. But they're not just dedicated to milking every single dollar out of your bank account. They've
Oh my
also made it
God,
their
look at
personal
that.
mission to waste as much of your time as humanly possible. A few years ago, they added something revolutionary. They turned the park into the city. Now, functionally, at its
What?
core, the city is just a menu. Every physical location that you have to trek to could have just been text on a screen and it would have been way more efficient to navigate. But that
Oh my god. It's to increase monthly player retention. That is so evil. I love it. They show you where you should go, but there's nothing along the way, so you run around for 5 minutes to get to the next point instead of teleporting. That's amazing. Dude, sports game players are unironically one of the dumbest fucking people ever. I mean this in the nicest way possible. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, I'm sorry, but you're actually fucking stupid. They're milking your dick for money, and then they fuck you in the ass for more of your money.
That wouldn't be innovative.
sorry,
Innovation
I'm
is
sorry.
when you have to jog a mile just to have Gatorade before your next game. Innovation is when you
And there's nothing along the way. Like in open world games, like in Elden Ring, you're running around, and at least there's something else to do or look at while you're doing the thing. You can fast travel in Elden Ring. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I take it back. You can fast travel. It's so fucking dumb.
create something tedious so you can sell the solution to it. Man, aren't you guys tired of having to navigate this
God.
big stupid city
Oh
we
my
made?
God.
Then buy a bike.
Let me guess, the bike is behind like a subscription. You already pay $60 base to play the game. Then they shove ads and microtransactions up your butt to get more money out of you. And then to seal the deal, they make you buy a subscription so you can ride around on a bike to skip, like, you know, the running around. I love that. It reminds me of World of Warcraft in a way, like retail specifically. Like, you already buy the expansion, you already buy a subscription, but not only that, if you want the cool, pretty horse that doesn't exist in, like, the actual game, you gotta shell out money for that.
It's $10, fuck you. Imagine if every
$10?
time you turned on your computer, you had to make a little guy run across town just to go to the Gmail store. Oh shit, forgot my password, gonna have to sprint over to City Hall. I feel like every
Oh my
single
God,
element of this game
dude.
is designed with the goal of wasting your time. Whether it's getting interrupted in the main menu to show you 2 separate ads, or a halftime show
Beautiful.
you cannot skip even if you
No, shut up.
press X the whole time. Don't get me wrong, this halftime show is great. They've got Ernie, Kenny, Shaq, my 3 favorite guys. They show highlights and relevant stats, they make jokes. By sports game standards, this halftime show is fantastic. But there are 1 million games in every basketball season, and I don't want to watch 1 million halftime shows. I'm just trying to
Are they all different, or is it the same shit over and over? Is it the same shit over and over, or is it a little bit different every time? Man, that would still get boring after like 200 games. Good lord. Same? Oh my god. Guys, stop being shit eaters. I'm sorry. This is so bad.
Speed run to the playoffs so I can take a virtual trophy home to my real life Orlando Magic. Is that too much to ask? 58 seconds, by the way. But whatever, those are just minor inconveniences. The really egregious wastes of time are in the My Career mode. Now, the thing is, when you start his career, this guy fucking sucks at basketball, which is a problem because that's the thing he's trying to do. He's slow as hell. He can't shoot to save his life. He has...
Oh my god. Then is he in the NBA if he sucks? Like, what are we doing?
One shirt and it's brown. And in order to fix these things, you need to obtain virtual currency. Now, there's two ways you can do this. Option one, grind. Spend dozens of hours playing dozens of games, scraping together pennies so you can get 1% faster, 1% stronger, 1% better at handling balls. But it's never enough. This process is miserable. You're useless out there. You don't belong in the NBA. You would be better off in any other line of work. And this...
No, I'm not gonna make that joke. Never mind.
is exactly by design. This is how the game wants you to feel. They want you to hate this part because they know the more frustrating of an experience you have, the more likely you are to just skip to option two, spend $40 more. Come on, just do it. You don't have time for this. Don't you want to get to the fun part? You'll start doing the math in your head and rationalize it as a no-brainer. Yeah, $40 is a lot of money, but it's not nearly as much money as I could earn in the 40 hours it's saving me. You feel like a genius. You feel like you outsmarted the system, and then you realize this is the system. I did the exact thing they wanted me to do. And it wouldn't even be that.
Korean games are notorious for this, and I think they adapted that as well. In BDO, you can grind for thousands of hours, or you can slam down half your paycheck at a time and just, like, bang your fucking face into the wall and try and get a good hit. A good hit being, like, an upgrade, an enhancement. Lost Ark does this, BDO does this, I think MapleStory did this as well. So many games, and then they just adapted into like Western audiences.
That bad if the game itself didn't already cost $70, but now you're out over $100, maybe $150 if you pre-ordered it. Also, the professional athlete you created doesn't play like he's never touched a basketball in his life before.
And I've got all the natural ability in the world thanks to my genetics.
And then you get to do it.
God, I'm trying not to make this joke. I'm sorry. Bro, he's like handing it to me. Oh my God. It's because he's not black.
Professional athlete you created doesn't play like he's never touched a basketball in his life before.
And I've got all the natural ability in the world thanks to my genetics.
And then you get to do it all again next year. This whole system of paying to skip a grind that has been intentionally designed to be insufferable.
Look, he's so much smaller than him.
Has become way too common. Developers are purposely holding our time hostage, knowing we'll probably spend a few bucks to get some of it back.
Oh my God, this is RuneScape 3, isn't it? I've never played it.
I feel like that's almost the entire business model of MMO.
World of Warcraft muted.
It's one of the reasons I stopped playing RuneScape after our lifelong on-off relationship. I kept having to fight the urge to spend a few bucks on gold because the alternative was earning it in the game, but then I'd have to play the game. And I don't want to do that. I just want to play the end of the game. How long does it take to get there?
To be fair, I will defend RuneScape on this one. The bonding problem is out of hand, and the bonding was supposed to be like a band-aid, but it didn't really do anything. Yeah, there's still a lot of RuneScape bonding. The average college student spends 1,792 hours studying for a bachelor degree. Wait! I have like a bachelor degree in like World of Warcraft like 4 times over. Man, I'm fucked.
Oh.
Yikes.
Well, I guess this is where I live now.
In conclusion, life is short, and
Just
your time
play
is
RuneScape.
precious. It's your most valuable resource, and you should treat it that way because, unfortunately, no amount of it is guaranteed. And I just hate seeing how much it's become commodified, how companies have figured out ways to steal as much of it as they can from us.
Unfortunately, a sucker is born every minute, and there's nothing you can do about it.
You can't even pause a fucking movie anymore without having your attention demanded. I know you're just getting up to pee, but if you could please scan this QR code, we got a lot of interesting information about Lysol wipes. The way our attention gets pulled in every direction at all times also makes me feel like I should be multitasking always or I'll fall behind. I always feel like I'm missing out on something. There's so many movies I want to watch and games I want to play, and there's not.
That's called ADHD. That's not a you problem, sir. You should get yourself tested.
Not enough hours in the day to do it all. So when I do give myself free time, I try to be overly efficient with it. I can't just play a video game. I should be catching up on podcasts. Loading screen, perfect. That gives me exactly 9 seconds to scroll through TikTok. I hate to be bored.
Yes.
I'd hate to have to listen to the thoughts that are already in my brain. I need to be absorbing new information constantly,
Yes.
or I'll die. I've been trying more and more lately to not let the
Exactly.
feeling that there's something better I could be doing prevent me from enjoying the time that I have. Sometimes it's nice to go for a walk without bringing my AirPods. There's still plenty of stuff to listen to. Birds, cars, 1 billion cicadas making the world's loudest sound. I don't need to
Those are
min-max
relaxing,
content
though.
consumption. In fact, I probably shouldn't be doing that. I don't think prioritizing constant small hits of dopamine, hoping it all adds up to something meaningful, is the secret to being happy. The secret to being happy is gambling. Nobody's ever had a bad time in the casino.
This
Who's gonna tell him?
is free. So how do you make money?
The advertisers cover the cost of the TV.
This.
So this is an ad.
This is always
Yeah,
on.
Whatever you're watching, we're able to monetize using the bottom device. Okay, so check this out.
I hate that shit so much. The TV I bought years and years ago has like ads everywhere on it. It's so dumb.
So there's a Pizza Hut ad right there. We literally are now on pizzahut.com, and we can order a pizza.
What? A pizza? Blah, 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 blah. Smart TV. Yeah, smart my ass. When's the TV is gonna suck my pee-pee? How about that? When is it gonna start gooning for me? Yeah. When's that gonna happen? I pay like thousands of dollars for a nice TV, and what does it do? Nothing.